Okay, Astros.
Yeah.
Go Stros.
I'm going to bang on my trash can. Hold on.
We're going to
Ash, it's time
hashtag
to go
take
to-
it back. We're going to
Ash,
take
it's
it
time to
back
go to
next
the
year.
review. Hold on. I'm banging on my trash can. Fastball. Here it comes.
Oh, my God.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me are my co-hosts, Ash, I'm too old for this shit, Savoy,
Hi, y'all.
and Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week, we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, and want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatthemovies.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. That's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, Lovecraft Country, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, and Watchmen. Find all the information and past episodes at shatontv.com. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live all week long, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatthemovies.com/Twitch, where we play video games and host watch parties. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing today?
Well, Gene, before we get to the movie of the week, I think we just take it for granted that our listeners have been along the ride with us since the very beginning. So I thought I would take this chance to take our new listeners and explain to them what the podcast is about. Yes, we review 80s and 90s films, but I thought it was more important to tell them what I believe in as a podcaster, because I believe in the drive-in theater, the smell of movie popcorn, Mr. Drummond's good intentions, high C ecto coolers, Bud Dry, and Jolt Cola. And the movies of David Lynch are self-indulgent, overrated crap. I believe John Benet Ramsey's brother acted alone. I believe there ought to be a constitutional amendment forcing MTV to only play music videos. I believe in mixtapes, Skinamax late-night softcore porn. I believe that Jingle All the Way is a better holiday movie than A Christmas Story. I believe that B. Arthur is the hottest Golden Girl. And I believe in long, slow, blockbuster 2-tape VHS rentals that take 3 days to finish. So I was elated this week when one of our listeners, Kelly B., asked us to review the 1988 romantic sports comedy, Bull Durham.
When Kelly wrote in and said, "Dear Shat Crew, I discovered the Shat podcast after looking for something to help me laugh through that final season of Game of Thrones, and boy, did I get hooked. Y'all were the first podcast I listened to and my standard. As a Baton Rouge lady, I have to say, hey neighbor, to Ash. Now on to Bull Durham and why I love this movie. I was 10 years old when this came out, so I didn't watch it until it was on TV. Baseball is the only sport I truly love watching, so I like that this seems to show a behind-the-scenes look at those small minor league towns and players. I do recall the first time I saw it in its entirety because it is the only movie I have seen with Kevin Costner that I finally understood why women think he is so attractive. The sexy confidence he has in this movie is fantastic without degrading his female counterpart. He is cocky without aggression, and this character is truly sexy. I watch this movie every time it is on TV and always laugh and enjoy every minute. It gives the viewer nostalgic, fun baseball feels and really was very smart by having the female be the narrator. The hard work it takes to make it in baseball shines in this film with clever writing and great development for even the supporting cast. It is a film that shows women don't have to play demure or hold back on their own sexuality, but instead unapologetically embrace who they are. I truly feel that Kevin and Susan are both equals in this movie, and both characters show their neuroses and vulnerabilities. I can't wait to see if you agree and look forward to your review of this classic film that seems to have it all. I hope you give it some leeway, as it is an 80s film and does feature the sexy sax. Thank you, crew, and let's play ball. Kelly B.
Well, Kelly, I can't say I agree on the male and the female being equal counterparts of this movie, but I can say that this is the movie that made me realize why Kevin Costner is hot. Like hot. Like I couldn't decide if I wanted to be Crash or be with Crash, but things were happening. Well, Bull Durham is a 1988 romantic sports comedy. It is partly based upon the minor league baseball experiences of writer-director Ron Shelton and depicts the players and fans of the Durham Bulls. The film stars Kevin Costner as Sexy Crash Davis, a veteran catcher brought in to teach rookie pitcher Ebby Calvin Nuke Laloosh, played by Tim Robbins, about the game in preparation for reaching the major leagues. Baseball groupie Annie Savoy, played by Susan Sarandon, romances Nuke but finds herself increasingly attracted to Crash because Kevin Costner is sexy. Bull Durham was a commercial success, grossing over $50 million in North America, well above its estimated budget, and was a critical success as well. Sports Illustrated ranked it the #1 greatest sports movie of all time. The Moving Arts Film Journal ranked it #3 on its list of the 25 greatest sports movie of all time. And in addition, this film is ranked #55 on Bravo's 100 Funniest Movies. It's also ranked #97 on the American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Laughs list, and #1 on Rotten Tomatoes' list of the 53 best reviewed sports movies. So Big D, Ash, we always ask her what your memories are of the movie we're covering. We'll start with you, Big D. What are your memories of Bull Durham?
So I grew up in a household where my dad was not into sports, did not watch them, did not like them. So I kind of found baseball on my own, and I grew up loving it. I don't know why I gravitated to it, but I played wiffle ball, stickball. I played some high school baseball, even though I wasn't any good. I played softball up until recently, as competitive as softball can be. And these movies were always memorable to me. I loved them. The Bad News Bears, I can remember being very young and intrigued by the Team of Misfits or Major League or Rookie of the Year, or The Natural was a great one. The soundtrack. And I used to, before the high school baseball games, I would listen to the soundtrack. And I didn't have the actual soundtrack. I had recorded with a tape cassette the audio of the play-by-play of the final inning and the dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, and the lights, and it would kind of fire me up. I even like Mr. Baseball. So I've always been a sucker for baseball films, and this one, this week, is right up there as one of my favorites.
Yeah, I absolutely love baseball. I grew up on it. My dad was a massive sports fan growing up, mostly football. He's a huge Saints fan, but he also really liked baseball. And baseball's always been a sport that I personally both love to watch. I like to play it. I was never into softball, but I did like baseball, the more traditional game. And I think that this really kind of exploded for me when I got to college, because I went to Tulane, and when I was at Tulane, that's when Tulane's baseball team was at like one of its biggest, successful multi-year runs. And so we got to go to the College World Series. I would volunteer and I would work like the regionals and the super regionals and all that stuff, and was hugely into college baseball and always like pro ball. I'm a big Astros fan. Fortunately, we just lost the World Series, but we made it there again. So big fan. I remember seeing this movie because I've seen most baseball films, and I have to say, when I saw it, I think it was in high school, it wasn't one of my favorites. It really wasn't. The Natural is my favorite baseball movie of all time, but this one I remember liking. But I'm really glad I get to go back to revisit it, because like as an adult, like a fully formed person, I definitely enjoyed it differently.
A lot of times we talk about how Ash is so much younger than we are and came to things later than we did. Not baseball, though. You guys are light years ahead of me on baseball. I didn't understand baseball, like literally did not understand the game and how it worked until I was 27 years old. I had a sports writer as a roommate, Justin Miller, shout out. And as a kid, when this movie rolled around, it had nothing I cared about. Like I wasn't interested in baseball. I wasn't interested in romantic comedies. And this cast to me just seemed like a bunch of old people doing boring stuff. So I didn't really understand what the hell was going on. I remember it being on at times, but always just kind of like ignored it because I didn't understand what the hell was going on.
I completely understand it. Lately, I've gotten into cricket. And I feel like I'm still, I don't know why. I enjoy it. I understand the basics of how the matches work. But still, when they display all the stats, I'm completely lost. But I really, really like it. I want to try it one day.
So you're sitting here in a country where we have hockey, we have baseball, we have soccer, we have basketball, and we have NFL football. And you're thinking about cricket.
Yeah, I mean, some of the matches can take like days, multiple days. And the strategy of it, I think it's a great game.
Well, if anybody out there knows of a cricket movie that we should be doing, please commission it. You can write us, host at shatthemovies.com. But until that day, let's roll the trailer.
What do you believe in then?
Well, I believe in the small of a woman's back, the hanging curveball, high fiber, good scotch, and I believe in long, slow, deep, soft, wet kisses that last for 3 days.
Oh, my.
Who are you? I'm the player to be named later.
I love winning, man. You hear what I'm saying? It's like better than losing.
These are the ground rules. I hook up with one guy a season. Usually takes me a couple weeks to pick the guy. Kind of my own spring training.
It's cold in here.
You think Dwight Gooden leaves his socks on?
God, the sucker teed off in that like he knew I was going to throw a fastball.
He did know. I told him.
Honey, I want you to wear these when you're pitching on the road. They're garters.
Rose goes in the front, big guy.
Love is a lot like baseball. It's not whether you win or lose. It's how you play the game.
No problem, baby, no problem.
Kevin Costner.
Get a hit, Crash. Shut up.
Susan Sarandon.
Have you ever been tied up in bed?
Tim Robbins.
I'm too old for this.
Bull Durham.
The Durham Bulls are dealing with another sparsely attended losing season. The minor league team stars Ebby Calvin Laloosh, played by Tim Robbins, a hotshot rookie pitcher known for having $1 million arm but a 5-cent head, who has potential to become a major league talent. Crash Davis, played by Kevin Costner, a 12-year veteran in minor league baseball, is sent down as the team's catcher to educate Laloosh and control his haphazard pitching.
So when most people think about baseball movies, there's two different types. There is like the pro, it's like the natural, the elite top level story about professional baseball. Or like Kevin Brackett said, the story of the, yay, we're going to do it. The misfit team of the Bad News Bears didn't come through. But this was such a different movie because it's focused on the minor leagues. And the minor league farm system, that makes up the backbone of baseball. It is throughout the country. It's in little towns. There's so many levels of baseball. It makes the entire English Premier League, the whole structure of that, look ridiculous. And this movie focused for the first time on the pure version of the game. Everyone's playing because they're either following their dream, they're hanging on like Crash, and the fans of the teams in these small towns, it's integrated. They're going to go out there. It's become part of the community. And the teams will do anything. When I was in the Army, we had the Nashville Sounds. And you would go out there because they had these crazy like promotional nights. And here I liked it that you see the City Council Little League Cash Drop Day where they drop $1,000 and the kids run around. You hit the bull, you win a steak. You get the clown prince of baseball, Max Pankin. This is such a fucking change, and it really warmed my heart to why I love baseball.
Yeah, I have to say I completely agree. I'm a huge fan of the minor leagues. In New Orleans, we had the New Orleans Zephyrs, and my dad and I would go out all the time to their games. We really enjoyed them. And I think that, like you're kind of alluding to, there's a lot less glamour for sure. And I think because of that, it's not just the players, but the fans themselves are also so pure. Like they really, really support it. And they live for that type of ball because they want the players to do well. They want them to get picked up. They want them to keep working so hard to hone their craft. And I love that aspect of baseball. And I think that's one of the things that makes it so different from other sports. Like I know you've got like arena football and you've got professional football and you've got that type of thing, but it doesn't feel like they're related at all. It doesn't feel like there's any, really nice, innocent pieces of those sports. They feel cutthroat. They feel incredibly competitive. Minor league, while it is competitive, just doesn't feel like it has that cutthroat piece to it.
At the risk of making this a minor league baseball podcast, I got to totally agree. Like when I talked about getting into baseball, Justin got me into baseball watching the Yuba Sutter Gold Sox. Like that was the only thing to do in Marysville, California, was go see the Gold Sox play. I was a season ticket holder. I had t-shirts. I had all the merch. And these guys were a collegiate wood bat league. Like these were college kids on their off season and families would actually have to host them. They were basically like exchange students, right? But the cool thing about it is Justin's like, dude, you got to check this shit out. So late at night after a game, he would take me to Denny's and you would see all the players getting dinner at Denny's. And I'm like, who are these 40-year-old women who are with all the players? Those were the quote unquote host families. You would apply to the team to get a baseball player to stay with you for the season. And there are all these just like single ladies, you know, recent divorcees that get a nice young stud to come stay with them for the summer. Hair gets a little fucked up. You're sitting in the booth having your moons over my hammy. I mean, Annie is real and she lives in Marysville, California.
Yeah. And this movie keeps it light. They don't really go into the fact that the minor league life, it's miserable. The players can barely survive. If like some of the teams, if you have a home game, they don't put them up. They don't give them any food allowance. People are having to live 5 guys in a single room apartment. It's a miserable existence, but it goes back to that you play because you have the hope. That's that 1 in a million shot that you could be the one that gets called up to the show.
And I think that addiction is like so universal. Like this movie's about baseball, but there's a lot of life points that it touches on that I think we can all understand. And like I haven't played professional baseball. I don't think any of us have played any professional sports unless you guys got some secret careers that I don't know about. But you can relate to that job you love. And Kevin Costner is just so fucking good in this movie. And there's a scene, you know, where he shows up, he gets called down to the Durham Bulls. He knows why he's there. And they explain to him, like, listen, you're here just to coach up this other guy. You're a glorified babysitter at this point, right? You're basically on the coaching staff, but you're out there on the field. And, you know, he says he quits. He's out of it. He's too proud for that. And they just wait. They know he's coming back. And he walks right back in. And it reminded me so much of my newspaper career. I started out in Marysville, California, 27 grand a year, worked my way up until I got to the Chicago Sun-Times. I thought it was hot shit. I was in the majors, you know. Unfortunately, the paper went bankrupt and I had a choice there. I could have stayed in Chicago and chosen another career path, done pretty well for myself, stayed with all my friends, stayed in this amazing fucking town with so many things going on, my favorite town at that time. Instead, I chose to go to Lima, Ohio, because I just wanted more days in the newsroom. I wanted to stay in that career field. It was what I loved doing. And I knew I was going to get treated like shit. And I knew that town sucked. And I knew that life was going to be fucking miserable, making garbage money in a garbage town, but I could not let go. And I think that when you see that, like we all get that. We've all had that moment, and he just pulls it off so well.
Yeah, it's very relatable. And the movie does something that I don't remember us seeing in any of the other sports movies that we've done. We get to go inside the player's head. Crash's first at bat, he's on the team. He is this wily veteran. It goes pitch by pitch, what he's thinking. Come on, meat, you're fucking weak. Talking shit to the pitcher. Then Annie starts creeping into his head and he realizes, wait, hold on, step out. What are you doing? Why are you thinking about her? Or Nuke, his internal battle. He's got to balance his chakras and he's got to breathe through his eyelids. And he's shaking off Crash's sign saying, no, I want to bring the heater. I want to announce my presence with authority. Or when he admits that Annie's underwear feels good and he feels sexy. It gives us an insight into the fine art of baseball and what these guys are thinking that you couldn't do any other way.
Yeah, and I really appreciated this because I feel like I like it when films show like this completely conflicted way of thinking because I can really relate to it. You know, Tom meditates about 2 hours a day. Like he's done it since I've known him. I mean, he meditates for really, really long. He's very, very good at it. And sometimes he's meditated for longer than that. He wants to go to this retreat where they meditate for like 3 days straight. And that sounds like my worst fucking nightmare. And to all of you that can meditate, more power to you. But there is a time period where like Tom was like, hey, I want to share this with you. I want to teach you how to become, you know, spiritually grounded. And so I went to this coaching and they were trying to help me to figure out how to quiet my mind. So it was like, okay, well, tell me what it is that you're thinking so we can help you learn how to process it. And so I went on and on for about 3 or 4 minutes about how I started with anxiety over not being able to do it well, because spoiler alert, I tend to not do things I don't naturally do well because I don't like failing. And so I started with that. And then after about 3 or 4 minutes, I somehow got to cheese, and that I was really genuinely thinking about cheese and whether or not Gouda would be at a high enough melting degree for me to use it in a grilled cheese that I was going to be making later that week. And like, that's genuinely how my brain works. And then the coach was like, I don't know if you're going to be able to do this. So, like, having these inner conversations with myself, like, constantly, because my mind doesn't stop, I can totally relate to this.
Come on, isn't meditation just like resting? It's just like
No!
zoning out.
You're supposed to quiet your mind.
I don't need a fucking coach to
be
just sit there and
centered.
zone out. No.
Wait, you're supposed to think of nothing at all?
Yeah, so it starts with, like, the way it was described to me at this particular one. There's lots of different ways to do it. You imagine yourself sitting in
I'm
like
doing it.
the center of this space alone, and then like your thoughts are supposed to flow out from you like waves to the point where like everything uncolors and it's just like white silence. And your mind reaches a point where it thinks of nothing, so therefore it can think of everything.
Okay, so A, that sounds like dying. And B, I thought the idea of like clear your mind and
Yeah,
let it
that's what I
go
thought.
where it wants to.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it wrong this whole time. I was like, yeah, now we're going to think about some cheese.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was a normal thing. You're supposed to think about cheese.
Well, apparently it's not. Apparently people like you and me are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
And before anyone writes in, by the way, we know that Chevy Chase and Caddyshack also had an inner monologue that was related to
Yes,
sports,
yeah.
but that shit does not count. Not on the same level.
I also wasn't on that podcast, so.
Well, thrown into the mix is Annie, a baseball groupie who chooses one player from the Bulls to be her lover and student each season. Annie flirts with both Crash and Ebby and invites them to her house, but Crash walks out saying he's too much of a veteran to try out for anything. Despite some animosity between them, Annie and Crash work in their own ways to shape Ebby into a big league pitcher. Annie plays mild bondage games, reads poetry to him, and gets him to think in different ways. She also gives him the nickname Nuke. So at this point in the movie, we get this fight scene, and it's classic. If you guys have never seen it, highly recommend watching the movie. And if you don't watch the movie, at least watch this fight scene. They're at the bar. It's the first time Nuke and Crash meet. And you know from this one scene that this movie is going to be great. Like this was the turning point for me where I was just convinced this movie's going to kick ass. Costner, he's a total role model in this movie. Like I'm watching him, and just like Kelly said, he's arrogant and he's sexy and he's tough without being overly macho. This guy is operating from a position of authority around a guy who is clearly taller than him, younger than him, more talented than he is. And that's a very tough thing to do for a man. And again, Costner looks incredible. And he's not the only one doing work in this scene because Tim Robbins is so good in this. He's perfectly stupid, which is harder to do than you think. And he's infectiously youthful. It's just good stuff all around.
So I don't think he's arrogant. I think he's confident. There's something that comes with age. He says a lot by saying nothing. He doesn't say, hey, I'm your catcher. He just sits down and he's listening and he lets it happen. When he calls him out outside, he knows that Nuke is outmatched and he knows he's going to challenge him to throw the ball. He is a veteran catcher. He had his 22 days in the show, but he oozes this confidence. But I do love when he misses and then he kind of comes in awkwardly and Crash punches him in the face. Immediately Nuke takes his place, subservient to him, and goes, hey, nice punch. They get up, they sit down, have a beer, and it's all good.
Well, I think that what's interesting is that Nuke, I think he's such a great character, and Tim Robbins, I think, is absolutely perfect in this role.
Perfect.
But I did not realize that this role was considered for so many other people, and I think it would have been such a different film if one of them had gotten it. So apparently the filmmakers really were set on Anthony Michael Hall playing the role of Nuke. They wrote it with him in mind. They were really excited about him, and then he showed up to the audition and knew nothing about the movie, didn't know any of the lines for the reading he was going to do, just like a total ass, and was like, I didn't read the script. So they wanted him so badly, they said, go home, read the script, and come back tomorrow. He came back the next day, and he still had only read half of it. So they were like, fuck you, dude, you're out. And so then they went to Charlie Sheen, but he was in another baseball film. And so Tim Robbins, they approached him. And as soon as they could get him to prove that he could throw a ball well enough to, play the role, they gave it to him. And I have to say, like, Charlie Sheen in this, especially Anthony Michael Hall in this, totally different movie that I don't think is anywhere near as successful.
No, but Charlie Sheen looks like a legitimate closer. He's out there throwing gas. Robbins has this awkwardness that anyone who knows baseball, you got Mark Fidrix, the bird. He won the Rookie of the Year in 76. He was that awkward, lanky. He was great. So Tim Robbins plays that role, and he fits it perfectly. You could not have anybody else.
Yeah, man. He's Max Fried from the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
He moves like that. He
Yes,
looks
yes.
like that. He's just lanky and weird and just has that natural talent. And I love watching that. Those wild pitchers that don't look like they should be able to generate power, and then weird shit just flies out of them. Sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low, but occasionally it's right there.
Yeah, totally.
And Ash, you mentioned Anthony Michael Hall reading the script to this movie. When you break it down and you actually read the script, it's not that great. Like, it's not particularly well written as far as dialogue goes. And it's just a testament to how good Robbins is, how good Costner is, because Costner delivers what might be my favorite movie monologue of all time. It's not particularly well written, but he brings it so brilliantly. I'm watching him do that what I believe in speech. And I don't know how any woman with half a brain like doesn't melt immediately.
Yeah, it's one of those why does it work moments that we have here on the podcast where we watch something that's like, this is something that should not play as well as it does, but it just does. It's not the words. They're kind of shitty if you like take them on their own. They're ridiculous. It reminds me so much of that speech in Good Will Hunting that everybody thinks is so incredibly inspiring when he's like, have you smelled the inside of the Sistine Chapel? Well, I have, right? Like, so what? That speech is dumb, but Robin Williams delivers the lines well. And it's the same here. These words are dumb, but Kevin Costner delivers these lines well. And it's so swoon worthy. And I cannot believe how attractive Kevin Costner is here. He's young, but he still looks like lived in like a sort of way. Like he's lived a life, and he's snarky without being too cynical. He's confident without being a total asshole. And I am so sold on this Kevin Costner. I know Costner more from shit like Waterworld and Dances with Wolves. I just want to know where this Kevin Costner was my entire life, because this is so much better than Field of Dreams Costner.
So, Ash, I'm going to cut you some slack, okay? I believe that this podcast is like a journey through life. We're learning as we go, and you were not on our The Sure Thing podcast. And Gene and I discussed it. There was a life lesson taught by Gibbs' roommate who said it is not what you say, but how you say it. Costner's crash is so confident that bullshit, I believe in this, he had me swooning. I was like, oh my goodness. He's just, and he walks out and says, I don't audition. I was like, well, okay, it works.
Big D, I agree that it's confidence, but I think there's also just an authenticity to it. Like if each of us was actually open as you were earlier in the pod about what it is that we believe in, like people don't tell people that sort of thing. It's the fact that he and Annie are like just these people who will tell you everything if you're there to hear it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think that's what makes it work. So it's not a poetic speech. It's not a particularly beautiful speech, but it's very real. Like if you asked each of us what we really believe in, that's the sort of thing we believe in, the things you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And like, I like Annie, but I don't know what she's really doing. I believe in the Church of Baseball. It's cute. Her belief structure that frames her life and the sort of things that she does. She frames it like she is a personal development service for these players, okay, that she sleeps with, but I don't know what's going on with her. There's kind of a twisted rationale. She says, I make them feel confident and they make me feel safe and pretty. Of course, what I give them lasts a lifetime. But I found myself thinking, Annie's a bit darker. How will she deal with aging? And when she starts losing that influence over these younger players? Plus, she doesn't choose the one that she's attracted to. She picks the ones that are hitting over 250, that have a lot of RBIs, or they're great glove men up the middle. I wonder if there could have been a way that this would be slightly darker, because Annie's a bit batshit crazy.
When this movie started out, I was really worried that Annie would be every old white guy's fantasy of a baseball loving woman should be. Like, they basically set her up to be like, I love baseball. I remember all the stats and I suck these dudes' dicks. Baseball's sexy. But the movie acknowledges that she's a little bit off and it goes with it. I mean, Crash at one point literally asked her, he's like, who dresses you? Who dresses you? Because I was asking that the whole movie. Like,
do you have a
what's
job?
going on there? But we all know these women and they're a dying breed. And I'm actually sad about it. You know, my Airbnb host in New Orleans on the first night, this last trip, Jane, I walk into her home and it's just this wacky, eccentric, beautifully lived in house. I walk in, she doesn't answer the door. I'm going through the hallway. She's not there. I go back into the billiards room because of course she has a fucking billiards room and she's in lingerie putting on her skeleton makeup while strangers are walking through her house, drinking and taking Polaroid pictures because they thought it was cute. She's completely unfazed. And I'm just like, fuck, man, like, where do these women come from? And I hope they never go away.
Mm-hmm.
No. They're going to go away because they're going to go to jail. They're going to kill somebody.
These are not the snapped women. These are not the women that are like, and then she snapped. Like, they're not going to kill anybody. They're too chill to kill anybody. They don't give a fuck about the thing anybody thinks about them. And that's what's great about them.
Yeah, no woman that leaves a plate of peanut butter Oreo cookies in her kitchen for everyone to just enjoy is going to snap.
Nope.
I hope you're right.
Well, Crash forces Nuke to learn not to think by letting the catcher make the pitching calls and lectures him about the pressure of facing major league hitters who can hit his fastballs. As Nuke matures, the relationship between Annie and Crash grows until it becomes obvious that the two of them are a more appropriate match, except for the fact that Annie and Nuke are currently a couple. So it fucking happened while I was watching Bull Durham.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I'm watching these head games, as you mentioned, Big D, between Crash and Nuke and the opposing players and themselves. And for the first time in my life, I found myself wanting to go play baseball.
Awesome.
Like, I was like, I want to experience this. And I'm on my flight back from New Orleans on Southwest Airlines. Thank you for saving my life. And I'm like, what should I watch? Should I watch a free movie? Should I watch the next movie that we're doing for Shat? Holy shit, Game 6 of the World Series is on. I think I'm going to watch this. I got no vested interest in it. The Astros are in it. The Braves are in it. I don't care. And I'm watching it and suddenly this movie like fucking opened my mind. I could see the expressions on players' faces and their little tics and the psychological warfare going on between the players. Already, like I mentioned before, I'm studying up on Max Fried. I'm starting to look into like Fernando Tatis Jr. And I'm like, Big D, can I be on your softball team? Like, I want to know what this feels like and what it's all about.
There is a fine art to the game. And I'd have to ask you first, like, what is your position? Where would you play?
So I went to my friend Skip's bachelor party, and it was the first time I ever tried to bat. This was in my 20s.
Okay.
And I couldn't hit shit in the batting cage, even when they turned to the slowest setting with like the largest ball. I can't do that. I'm not a fast runner, and I don't throw very well. Like, I can barely throw a spiral on a football.
Okay.
This is why I fight. This is why I fight, because I can't do any of those things. Okay. But I got a sharp mind. I got a high pain tolerance, and I like to fight. So I'm guessing like catcher or
totally. Yes.
Or third base coach.
Catcher, because you can talk shit. You can influence a game. I think you would get under people's skin. You could influence the batters. This would be great. So now I'm going to share something embarrassing here because now I've played softball at the highest level you can. Anyone out there, if you don't, I understand softball. It's not a real sport, but anyone
out softball show.
Yeah, listen, anyone out there who plays,
were you like in the Olympics at the highest level you can?
Yes, I was. I was on a team that was paid to travel. So we had a sponsor who paid for us to go in the Southeast.
Damn.
So I've won multiple worlds, U-Trip, Freedom, ASA, ISA, E, D, and C level. So I've played competitive softball, right? And I started also playing with Roger, and this was where we met. And Roger had a more ragtag team of fun guys who worked at Planet Hollywood. But Roger would go, and he had a survey that he created, okay? This is no joke.
Jesus Christ.
And so he would find guys on like just absolutely any of these boards, softball boards, and he would find them online, and he would send them a survey like, how would your friends describe you? Question 2.
God.
What position do you normally play? Where do you bat in the order? And the guys that he would have show up, they'd be like, well, I'm 4% body fat and I'm into lifting weights. And the guy would come out and he would be nothing like that. But it was a great experience, and it was where Roger and I met. So, Gene, yes, we will give you a tryout on my team, which I really don't play much anymore, but I love softball.
Well, I mean, I want to play too. I am a fantastic wiffle ball player. Let me just throw that out there. I can't tell you how many games I've played on the fly in New Orleans. Yes, Gene Lyons.
Is wiffle ball, that's different from t-ball, right?
Yes.
Yes, I don't hit a ball off of a stand. Someone
just
pitches
asking.
the ball to you. And you have a wiffle bat. No, we don't play with the fat bat. We play with the skinny bat. But I love a wiffle ball. And when I was little, I desperately wanted to be in Little League because I loved baseball and wanted to play baseball. And they wouldn't let me try out because they were sexist motherfuckers.
Now you can. Get out there
I
like, I
couldn't
think her
then.
name was Monique. That girl's dealing heat.
Well, I couldn't then.
Yeah. But Ash, I believe you can play. And that's one thing that you cannot fake. Actors cannot fake athletic ability. You can't do it. And I understand these sports movies that the emotion of the story is what people are supposed to respond to. But when you see an actor who can't pull it off, like if you see Michael J. Fox in Teen Wolf, you're like, he can't fucking play basketball. I don't care if he's a wolf. Or you got Sinbad and Scott Bakula in Necessary Roughness. You're like, they're not football players. Or Keanu Reeves in The Replacements.
Keanu Reeves is amazing in that movie.
No, he's not. You're the only thing I like in there was Kathy Ireland, the kicker, way ahead of its time.
I'm still trying to get over the idea that a wolf would be better at basketball.
And nobody's seen there's a problem with that. But Kevin Costner, he is responsible for some of the best sports movies we've ever had. And in this movie, it goes back to his high school days. He was a star high school baseball player. It was believable. When they were filming, he hit 2 bombs. He didn't want to stunt like catcher out there throwing out the runners at second. He insisted on doing it. And when you look at the movies that he's done, American Flyer, he had Bull Durham, he did Field of Dreams, Tin Cup. He came back to baseball again with the love of the game. He's believable. His natural, the way he presents himself on the field is something that you cannot do for most actors.
Yeah, the way he moves tells you he's a baseball player. When he announces that he's like, if this pitcher starts out with a breaking ball, I'm just knocking it out of the park. He announces it. He goes out there and nails it. And the way he runs past the dugout with his hands framing his face, I'm just loving it. Or even with his shit talking, like the way that he's presenting it, it's believable. He rats out his own pitcher, but then when the guy hits a home run and doesn't move, he starts yelling at him and then he's like, run, dummy. Like, that's fucking fantastic. And to that point, Jesus God, did you see Susan Sarandon try to swing a bat? That shit was painful. Like, that the crew gave up on it and they're just like, listen, we're going to keep the balls off screen. You just swing the bat. We're going to insert a bat hitting a ball noise. Was it the crack of the bat? I know baseball.
Yeah.
And we're just going to go from there. She looked awful. Get that woman some batting lessons.
No, but Andy's specialty, she's got a great stroke, but it's not in the batting cage. Yeah, Annie, she could stroke it, but not in the batting cage.
Nuke becomes a dominant pitcher by midseason, and he's called up to the major leagues. Annie ends their relationship, and Crash overcomes his jealousy to leave Nuke with some final words of advice. The Bulls, now having no use for Nuke's mentor, release Crash. He shows up at Annie's house, and the two finally get it on all weekend. I wrote that part. Crash then leaves Annie's house for another minor league position.
So my memory of this movie is it's the story of Nuke. It's a positive, feel good. Woo! We're going to raise up. But you go from that immediate excitement of Nuke realizing the ultimate goal. He's being called up to the show, to the simultaneous death of Crash's dream. It's heartbreaking. It happens every day across the minor league system. And a lesser movie, I think, would have made somehow Crash's story positive. Like, oh, look, Crash, he breaks the record, the home run record for the Bulls. Woo. Oh, and guess what? Annie, she notified the Sporting News. And here they are. There's a write-up. But this shit's real world. They don't sugarcoat it. There's no happy second story for Crash. He's out of a job. He's old. He's got to maybe get a coaching job. And I appreciate that. It kept it real.
I was so afraid that the plot twist was going to be that Nuke makes it big and then he calls for his old catcher.
Oh, God.
He comes out of the minors. You know, they're going to flip it around. Like the manager calls him in and he's like, we got to make a change to this organization. You're going to the big leagues, kid. You know, something like that. And they work together from one amazing season. They win the World Series or something like that. I loved the quiet pride of him just driving his car to a town where he could play baseball one last time, achieve something for himself, and then lay it all to rest. And I really appreciated Crash also having a dark side. Like, he wasn't this benevolent mentor, like a Morgan Freeman type, where he's just going to teach Nuke everything he knows and then just let go. He's pissed. He has given everything to this game, and some dimwit with an arm that is just genetically there, a freak of nature, is going to outdo him at the thing that he loves the most. And I love these little flashes of the darkness they gave us throughout the movie. And my favorite was when, you know, they're wishing they had a rain out, right? And he bets them $100 he could do it. They flood the field, and you see Crash, who's supposed to be this older figure, this mentor type, this mature veteran player, and he shows up drunk with a bat, floods the field, and says the coolest fucking line I think I've ever seen, which is, "Oh my goodness, we got ourselves a natural disaster."
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that you guys are hating on Annie a little bit here. Like, she can't swing a bat. There's some, I think that people are either hit or miss with Susan Sarandon. You either think Susan Sarandon is like really beautiful, or you think that she's not, right? And the studio was equally a split on her. So when they were talking about Annie, they wanted Annie to be younger and cooler than Susan Sarandon looked. So the producer of the film had Sarandon, who was 41 during production, go to Orion Pictures, to the co-founder, in this really tight dress and lean over his desk for half an hour. And she said that when she was kind of recalling this to Sports Illustrated in 2012, when they were looking back on this film, she said, as a rule, most studio executives' strong suit isn't imagination. So when you're trying to get a part, it helps for them to be able to envision you in the part. I definitely didn't go there in a t-shirt and jeans. I remember I had on an off-the-shoulder red and white striped dress, form-fitting. It was understood what I had to do. And I think that's really sad for her, because I think Susan Sarandon is really sexy. I thought she has a quiet sex appeal to her in Rocky Horror. I think that she looks really great in this film. She has a daughter who looks identical to her. If any of you have ever seen the movie Saved, which I think is an absolutely fantastic film, her daughter is in that and strangely looks identical to her. I think she is strangely beautiful, and I bought her. I love Susan Sarandon in this. I love her character, and I think she's sexy as fuck.
Okay, so I agree with you on the Rocky Horror Picture Show thing, but that was 1975. So a full, 13 years before this movie was made. And I hate to say it, but seeing Susan Sarandon in sexual situations in this movie made me a bit uncomfortable. Like, I was mildly grossed out. There were a couple times when she was like showing her legs or like getting it on with somebody, and I was just like, ugh. Like, there was... I would say I was bordering on a gag reflex. It did. I did not enjoy it.
But why?
Shocking. Yeah,
she looks
she's
ill.
She looks ragged. She's haggard.
What do you mean she looks ill? What does that mean?
Yeah, I thought there was gonna be spider veins when she was up on there. Like, it was. Yeah, she's like, I'm telling you, the minor league life, it's rough. She could have been chain smoking Newports, and I would have been like, okay, I buy it.
I mean, I was 2 steps away from Kingpin. Like, I think you knocked something loose, Tiger.
Oh my God, y'all are
That's
out
the
of your
vibe
minds.
I was getting.
No,
I call bullshit on both of you.
No,
Gene, you're her age now.
Well, that's...
I'm not fucking Kevin Costner with garters on either.
Yeah, that's true.
You wish.
But I do have to share a story here, an embarrassing family story. So my dad used to have that giant VHS, the recorder. It was like you would have like a strap, and it had the tape and the part, and then there was a wire to the camera in your hand. That's how big these things were. So right around this time, 88, 89, we are in Connecticut. My parents like to go antiquing. Fucking, if there's anything worse that you could be doing. So we're with them, and we're in this place in Connecticut, and holy shit, there is Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon. And my mother, not too subtly, is like, look who it is. And my dad went around the whole antique place, like trying to be like, oh, look at these yokes and look at these chairs. But the whole time he was just trying to shoot them in the background. It was really awkward, but they seemed like a loving couple. They seemed nice. And Susan Sarandon looked much more attractive in real life.
I got to stand up for antiquing here because I was in New Orleans just this week, shithouse, and I always make a point to get drunk and go to that antique mall on Magazine and look around because there's always cool shit you find there.
I just realized that I have a digitized version of this tape. I'm going to search for it.
Oh my God.
I'm going to search for it. I'm going to search for it and post it online. Stay tuned. ShatTheMovies.com.
Do we need to have like rights for that?
No, they were in public. You don't get any fucking protection.
Y'all, Susan Sarandon is 75 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she looked it back in 1988.
Shit. Y'all, that makes me feel so ancient.
Yeah.
I think you got better legs.
I do. I have great legs. Thank you.
Got dancer's legs.
I do.
Crash joins the Asheville Tourists and breaks the minor league record for career home runs. We see Nuke one last time being interviewed by the press as a major leaguer, reciting the cliched answers that Crash had taught him earlier. Crash then retires as a player and returns to Durham, where Annie tells him she's ready to give up her annual affairs with boys. Crash tells her that he's thinking about becoming a manager for a minor league team in Visalia, and the film ends with Annie and Crash dancing in Annie's candlelit living room.
So I can't believe that there would ever be talk of a sequel for this. I get that there's a little bit of an open ending as to whether Annie would follow, but a full-fledged sequel, and apparently this was a really big deal for years. They were wondering if there was going to be a sequel to this film until eventually it was like, you know, everyone in the movie is like 20 years older, and so everybody finally gave up on it, right? But this movie's pretty thin at the end, and I don't mean to make two Good Will Hunting references in one podcast, but it's like trying to make a sequel of that movie. Like, is Minnie Driver going to take Matt Damon back when he's driving in his car at the end? Who the fuck cares? And I'm the same here. Like, I'm glad this is where it ends. I'm glad that we figure out that the characters are just going to go and live these normal lives. And who cares if they end up together or not? I mean, I think a sequel would have been a massive overkill.
But I like the fact that Crash pretends earlier on like he doesn't care.
Right.
The record would be embarrassing. That would be a milestone that he would not be proud of. And he admits to himself here that it is something that's important. And when he comes back and he said, I just don't want to think about all this bullshit quantum physics and baseball. I just want to be. I like that. But then, you know, Kelly B hints at it. We get at least 3 minutes of sexy sax from the minute that Crash gets cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ash, I got to differ with you on this. Like, if I've got one complaint, it's that the movie feels like it can't decide on an ending. It's like they couldn't decide if he just leaves or they stay together or he becomes a manager or he keeps playing baseball. And they're just like, let's do all of them. Like, here's what I want from this movie. Just let me see Crash on her porch as she's walking in the rain and leave it alone right there. Or let me see Crash hit that record home run and then leave it alone right there. And I feel like the last like 10 to 15 minutes, it just kind of stumbled its way across home plate and didn't know when to stop. It just walked in the dugout and fell over, which is a very extended baseball analogy for a guy who doesn't know anything about baseball. But you get my point. I think that like they were so close to just closing it on a fucking high note and just missed that pitch. It's another baseball analogy. All right, now is the time in the movie. Now is the time in the podcast where we give our wipe scores for the movie. The wipe score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie would take to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect score. It is throwing a pitch and intentionally hitting the Durham bull right in the head, knocking him the fuck out. 5 wipes is an absolute disaster. It is Susan Sarandon's garters. No, just kidding. I thought she was going to react to that one. Fuck. 5 wipes.
A lot of hate.
You got a roll of the eye.
Hate.
Yeah,
I love her.
Yeah. 5 wipes. God, what is the grossest thing in the movie? I should have written this down earlier.
Susan Sarandon's legs on top of
No,
that
that's
kind of,
mean. That's mean.
A lot of gross things.
5 wipes is an absolute disaster. It's being tied up while a woman reads Walt Whitman to you. I'll go first. I'm going to go with 1 wipe on this movie and half a wipe for each of the 2 big mistakes. The first one was an unfortunately indecisive ending, which I just spoke of. And the second one, Ash, I'm sorry, is the casting of Susan Sarandon. We think she's right for the role because it's so iconic, because she's Susan Sarandon. Like, she's a goddess in her own right. But in this specific role, with what she was trying to pull off, I feel like there are plenty of actors who could have done a better job. And Big D and I were talking about this before we recorded the pod, and we're just going down the list of like who was hot in 88, like who would have been perfect. And it dawned on us, Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts as Annie is a fucking hit.
She's too classically pretty.
Is she really?
Gina Davis.
Is she
Gina
really?
Davis, I can buy more than Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts is exquisite.
She's got a big face.
She got a big mouth.
Yeah, Mystic Pizza. She's a long. This could be her. She could be the
Julia
minor
Roberts
league
is
groupie.
exquisite.
Anyway, one wipe from me.
So, Gene, for me, I think as a baseball movie, it is spot on. The whole cast, the team, Trey Wilson, who plays Skip, fucking dynamite. Robert Wool, who plays Larry, like the bench coach or like the assistant manager, they're great. It is so much fun to watch. The mentorship between Crash, the wily veteran, and Nuke, the young kid who's ignorant. Just the opening scene, okay, where he's teaching him, listen to me, I'm the catcher, I'll guide your way. He's teaching him the lessons. And he tips off the fastball. And he says, how do you know? I told him. It had me laughing. It had me happy. It felt really good. And the only thing that made me feel better was watching those cheating ass Astros get bounced out of the World Series.
Yes.
These two things together, watching the Astros fans crying in their little orange towels and tiny ass Altuve going back to the dugout with his buzzer on. This movie and the Atlanta Braves made me so happy. This is a 0.5 white movie.
Saw a guy walking down Bourbon Street this week. I don't know if I mentioned this. I went to New Orleans this week. Thanks, Ash. And I walk down the street and I see a guy and he's got a Houston shirt on, and it's the H, the Astros H with the star, and it says "Hate Us."
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking of him as the score just ran up 3-0. 6-0.
Felt so good.
7.
You know what?
So tasty.
You know what?
So-
Let me tell you something. I love the Astros. I think they're an absolutely fantastic team. There was a great article that was published on ESPN that yes, the Astros really are that good. So hate them, but they're really that good, fucking good.
At cheating.
And
Yeah,
well,
good.
no, this team is not that team though. Like this team was a great fucking team, and so fuck both of you. But that being said, back to Bull Durham. I think that this is a great movie. It's a great baseball movie. It's a great opportunity for us to be reminded why Kevin Costner was such a big deal in the 80s and 90s. He's so good in it. He's charismatic. He's fun. Tim Robbins is absolutely fantastic in it. I love Susan Sarandon in this. I like her character. I like her acting. I think she's great. I think it's a fun story. I think it's a fun sports movie. Is it perfect? No, I didn't particularly like Eugene. I didn't particularly love the ending. I think that there was some stumbling throughout with the script that the good acting couldn't necessarily make up for here and there. So it's not perfect, but it's damn near close. And I'm giving it 0.5 wipes.
All right, with half a wipe from Ash, half a wipe from Big D, and one wipe from me, that comes out to 0.6 repeating wipes for Bull Durham.
So Gene with a score of 0.66 repeating wipes. That now ties. It's some good company. This is in the number 25 spot. It is tied with Die Hard, Groundhog Day, Good Will Hunting, The Fugitive, and Interview with the Vampire. It is slightly better than Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and slightly worse than last week's Goodfellas, Happy Gilmore, and Boogie Nights.
Very respectable score.
It's a good movie.
I feel like this brings into relevance the entire, speech Kevin Costner gives on the difference between, being in the show and being in the minors. Just
I
a
completely
0.6 of a wipe.
Yeah,
You could have had Immortality as a perfect movie.
Yeah, it's one hit a week. It's a difference between being in the show or being on Shat The Movies podcast.
All right. Well, thanks, Kelly, so much for bringing us Bull Durham and opening my eyes to the greatness of this film. Big D, we have any voicemail this week?
Well, Gene, yes, we do. The first one we're going to take is someone who has an issue with our Rushmore review.
guys, this is Alex. I'm from the Secondary Heroes podcast. I'm sorry if I'm calling from my car. I'm driving from LA to San Diego in LA traffic, bumper to bumper, but I finally got through that. Anyways, no, I just finished the Scream episode. And by the way, I love the fact that you guys did that episode unedited, because I think that it came out so much better. I found myself laughing along with you guys. It was a great time. And then I followed it up with the Rushmore episode. And I would have to say that with the Rushmore episode, I'm not a big Wes Anderson fan. I've never been, and I feel like I saw Rushmore as I was younger. But after listening to you guys, it makes me want to go back and rewatch it, maybe now as a bit more of an adult. I really enjoyed everything that you guys had to say, and it got me excited. So maybe I will go back and rewatch that now. And another thing, actually, I'll make this the last thing. Sandlot is the perfect children's movie. I love everything about it. I know that you guys bring it up almost every week, and I'm going to help bring it up again for you guys, because Sandlot is fantastic. Love the show. I've been a long-time listener and first-time caller, so I figured, hey, I've got a long drive. Why not call Shat The Movies? Anyways, this is Alex from the Secondary Heroes podcast. Have a great time, guys. I can't wait to hear more.
I feel like if there's a podcast with just Kevin Brackett and Alex talking to each other, I could just listen to that every morning and just wake up, have a big cup of juice, some Frosted Flakes, and go about my day. What a cheery motherfucker.
First of all, thank you. The Sandlot is perfect. Gene continues to be wrong. And secondly, I hope you do go back and rewatch it. I do have to say, though, guys, I saw The French Dispatch.
Uh-oh.
And it's not that great. It's a big bummer. I think, Gene, I'll be interested to see what you think about it, because it is a love letter to journalism. The second and third vignettes are very successful, but the rest of it, it's so heavy-handed. It's gross.
I think Kevin Brackett's sunshine fucking credentials might be called into question. On Twitter today, he was like, "Oh, Monster Squad, multiple wipes." Who the fuck is this guy? That's not the Kevin Brackett I know.
Well, Ash the King Bee did call me up after watching The French Dispatch and tell me that it is like the perfect Gene Lyons movie. So definitely got to check it out soon.
So, Gene, we've got time for 2 more voicemails, and they both revolve around Little Giants. So here's the first one.
Hey, this is Jeremy from Orlando. I was just calling in. I just listened to the Little Giants episode and was so happy to hear that Big D mentioned that he was a former cast member and helped open up the wide world of sports. Well, I spent 5 years of my Disney career there at Wide World of Sports, first in guest ops and later in merchandise, and I too saw some of those heartbreaking moments for those little kids playing Pop Warner football and many, many other dance competitions, and tears of joy and tears of pain, and it's just nice to know there's another fellow ESPN cast member out there fighting the good fight, watching some movies. Love the show, guys. Keep up the good work. I look forward to more in the future.
Jeremy, thank you very much for calling in. It is moving when you see these kids playing these sports and taking it so serious, but then the veneer is ripped away and they become kids again. It can't help but change. And Gene, we have time for one more voicemail. And again, it revolves around Little Giants. Seems to be a popular movie and popular subject with our listeners. So here we go.
So I'm listening to the review of Little Giants. This is Stephanie, by the way. I've called a few times. I'm not drunk this time, so there's that.
Not yet.
I just wanted to say that the whole stereotypical the fat parent with the fat kid and the nerdy parent with the nerdy kid, I don't know where you all grew up, but I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and that was so extremely true. All of my friends that looked nerdy, their parents looked nerdier. Any fat friend I ever had, their parents were fat. They all overeat together. Any of those girls that came in wearing makeup in the 6th grade had a stay-at-home mom that always wore heels and a push-up bra. I mean, that's just like kids, you know, they act like their parents. So I feel like it was incredibly accurate of the way that I grew up. And of course, I grew up as a little kid in the 90s. Also, I wanted to say that I really, really, really wanted to commission Dutch when you started talking about Al Bundy. I was like, oh my God, Dutch is the best movie ever. And then I realized it's going to be like 2023 because you guys are so popular. But anyway, I love your podcast. I listen all the time. I'm super excited about the stuff coming up. And Big D, you're still my favorite. Okay, bye.
Wow. So I've not heard these voicemails ahead of time. It is funny you say that. Because Adam R., one of our elite, like top, he's our platinum level commissioners. He has commissioned Dutch, and Dutch will be this year's Thanksgiving holiday film. So you won't have to wait until 2022, 2023. It will be this Thanksgiving.
Big D for the next several weeks is just going to be listening to that. Bam, 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 bam. Ash, you've been enough dance recitals. You know that song.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that song. And I mean, speaking of dance, I was one of those kids at the wide world of sports a long time ago at dance competitions.
Of course. Half those teams are from Texas. Of course.
Well, I'm not from Texas. We always get to this place somehow. That at that point, I was still living in my hometown of New Orleans. I've only been in Texas since 2013.
All the same.
Okay, Astros.
Yeah.
Go Stros.
I'm going to bang on my trash can. Hold on.
We're going to hashtag take it back. We're going to take it back
to go
next
to the
year.
review. Hold on. I'm banging on my trash can. Fastball. Here it comes.
Oh, my God. Everybody makes
Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Well, gee, next week, it's a kind of a different movie. When drag queen Anthony agrees to take his act on the road, he invites fellow friends Adam and Bernadette to come along.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
Hold on. I'm trying to make this up.
Here you go.
I got a lot going on.
Here you go. You go. When drag queen Anthony agrees to take his act on the road, he invites fellow performers Adam and Bernadette.
Queen. You can just say fellow queen Adam and their trans friend.
I haven't seen this.
No, a drag queen is they're saying fellow cross-dresser. That's what they used to call drag queens. And you all need to watch RuPaul's Drag Race. You cannot use those words anymore.
Yeah, but Bernadette is transsexual.
Right, so you say you say that she's trans. You don't say that she's transsexual.
No, but I don't know if she's a performer or not. Oh, it says next they're performers. Okay, never mind. I don't know if it was just his friends or maybe just people
I'm fucking. They're just friends. So
just as long as you don't say Bernadette.
Shut up.
All right. Are they friends?
They're friends. They're
friends.
I believe they're friends. When drag queen Anthony agrees to take his act on the road, he invites fellow performers Adam, Bernadette, to come along in his colorful bus named Priscilla. The three performers travel across the Australian desert, performing for enthusiastic crowds and homophobic locals. But when the other two performers learn the truth about why Anthony took the job, it threatens their act and their friendship. Commissioned by Stephen Q, released in 94.
It's Stephanie.
Fuck you all. Commissioned by Stephanie Q. It was released in August of 94. And I have never seen this film.
I have. I remember liking it. I haven't seen it in a very long time. But I just want to point out that this was commissioned on Thanksgiving of last year. Like, guys, it's insane that we have movies commissioned out from this long ago. Nuts.
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
I thought it said 11/25/21.
Yeah, that's when the commission was made. Yes.
It was made in
20.
the future?
He accidentally put 21.
It's 20.
It's supposed to be 20.
Oh, okay.
Like how it's Bernadette, not Bernardette.
I just want to make sure that wasn't like when it's coming out.
No, that's when the commission was paid. So if you ever see the name,
because it
22
actually
years,
will be
22 days from now.
Yeah, no, because that's Thanksgiving. No, it's not coming out that day.
Correct.
So it was commissioned.
It was commissioned 11/25/20.
Okay. We were so close.
How does it always fall apart at this point?
It doesn't. The end is gold. The end is the best.
All right. So wait, did we get a clean cut?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, I think so. Okay.
Feeling lucky.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, Kelly and Stephanie, for commissioning these movies. Thank you to all the commissioners who make Shat the Movies possible. Be sure to join us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatthemovies.com, or call in like our fine callers or call in at 914-719-SHAT and leave a voicemail. You can support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, completing you can support
Fuck
What
the
is
free anonymous
happening?
survey. Seriously, fuck the free anonymous survey.
Okay,
Cut
all right,
that
cool.
shit out.
You can
I've changed like all of
right.
like the
all right. You can support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate. You can support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning.
Are you drunk? Oh, okay, good. I thought I was the only one. Thank God.
I can't say
Yeah.
affiliate.
Yeah, okay.
Affiliate.
Affiliate link.
Okay. You know what we're gonna make up this week by being like, you get 5 cold opens.
Oh
All right.
my God. Just do the whole episode. Should just be cold
All
open after cold open.
You can support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or commissioning your own movie. You can find all that information by visiting our website, shatthemovies.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Lovecraft Country. What? Don't. I can't see you guys. Okay. Okay. Also...
Just don't look.
Also, you can check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all the information on our website, shatontv.com, wherever our fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by iTunes, please be sure to leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Ash and Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Be sure to join us next week for the following movie.
Don't mind me asking, what kind of cabaret do you do?
We dress up in women's clothes and parade around mouthing the words to other people's songs.
I've been asked to do a show out of town.
You've got to be joking.
Ta-da! I hereby christen this budget Barbie camp.
Hello. Nice night for it. Where are you blokes from?
Uranus.
Oh, good.
I just focus on not getting a boner.
Yeah, I don't have that problem.